Hello, and welcome to Open Educational Resources, The Basics. My name is Beth Martin, and I am the Open Educational Resources Coordinator with Western Michigan University Libraries. My role with the libraries is to assist faculty with using, adapting, or creating open educational resources in their coursework or within their discipline. I work with the university's Open Educational Resource Task Force along with the subject librarians to assist in all of these endeavors. I am sharing some basic information with you today to help increase awareness of open educational resources and how they can help you with your own learning and your research experiences. So in today's presentation, I will begin with definitions of what open education resources are, or as they're also known as OER, and what they include. I'll discuss the differences between free resources versus open resources, and what exactly makes a learning or educational resource open. Next, I'll briefly discuss the cost savings of using open educational resources, especially a major OER tool, the open textbook. Then I will demonstrate some places to go to find existing OER that you could use, as well as who can help on campus. So can you go to learn more about OER use or adaptation, whether for your own teaching or research for your thesis or your dissertation. So to start with, what are OER? Open educational resources are educational materials that are distributed at no cost with legal permissions for the public to use freely, share, and build upon. They also give educators the ability to adapt instructional resources to the individual needs of their students, to ensure that these resources are up to date, and to ensure that there is no cost barrier for accessing these resources. OERs are already being used across America in higher education, as well as in K through 12 education, some workforce places, training places, and also in other informal learning opportunities. So these are examples of what OER. They include, of course, you have courses, textbooks, chapters, but also course materials, learning modules, streaming video, tests, simulation, syllabi, games, lecture and lab notes, assessments, and any other tool or material or technique used just to support access to knowledge. What does open mean in OER? Open educational resources are and always will be free. However, not all free resources are considered to be OER. Free resources may be temporarily free, or they may be restricted from use at some time in the future. Also, free but not open resources are usually not fully up to date, and they cannot be modified, adapted, or redistributed without obtaining special permissions from the copyright holder. They usually have pretty stringent copyright licenses around them. Now, OER, they have open intellectual property licenses and freedoms to allow others to share and adapt the materials. So, if you find a resource and it's not clearly tagged or marked as being in the public domain or having one of the open licenses that I mentioned, then it's probably not an open educational resource. That's just something to keep in mind when you're looking for some. Now, I did mention that open educational resources do have intellectual property licenses. The most common is from Creative Commons, and that's creativecommons.org. You can go there to visit to see the different types of licensing that they have if you're developing any kind of material. But like I said, so if something isn't in the public domain, it'll have one of these licenses attached to it. So these licenses are standardized and they're free to use open licenses. So Creative Commons, as you can see, offers 6 license types. They vary with who can use them or what restrictions, but they're pretty open, and a lot of times they're um, pretty transparent as to who can use them and for what purposes. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I just want to point out again that if you want to find out more about Creative Commons licensing, I would recommend going to their website. But moving forward, what makes an OER open? What you need to understand is that all open educational resources use 5R permissions, which allows them to be open. These permissions are not tied to their licensing per se, but they are needed when creating or adapting an OER. We need to remember that education at its simplest is sharing knowledge. Professors share with students their expertise so students could grow and learn in those disciplines being taught. And it can be argued that once information or knowledge is shared from that professor or from the expert, they don't lose that knowledge. In fact, many experts continue to grow and learn within their own disciplines and continue to share that new knowledge with their students. So basically, what I'm trying to say is allowing content or materials to be shared openly with others only increases that shareable knowledge. So, what are these 5R permissions and how do they foster sharing knowledge? So, the 5R permissions are retain, reuse, revise, remix, or redistribute. So, the first R is the ability to retain what is being shared or created. It also allows others the ability to make or create, to download, and to own and to control copies of the content. So when you create content and you use a Creative Commons license, you will still retain that right to the content, but with the content being open, others can use the content to share knowledge. Next, we have the ability to reuse materials. So this allows others to use the materials in creating, adapting, or just using an open educational resource. It allows the original content to be used in a wide variety of ways, whether that is being used in a class being taught or within the course content itself, whether it's in an assignment or reused in a study group, whether it's on a website, in a video, or by other means. It just allows people to reuse the materials that have been created. Next, we have revise. This allows the open educational resource to be adapted, adjusted, modified, or altered to suit a specific need. One example is the ability to translate the original content into another language. Or, if the original materials or content was, for example, created for an upper division course in your discipline, you could revise the content to use in a lower division course, or vice versa. So it's the ability to revise that content to meet a specific need. And then we have number 4, which is remix. This permission allows for content to be adapted with other similar content to create something new. For example, you can take content from one open textbook and another OER to create course content that meets the need of your teaching and the needs of your students. So I would think of remix kind of like a mashup. So by allowing users to remix content, they can create new information to meet their course objectives or to meet their student learning objectives or SLOs, or those outcomes, I'm sorry. So lastly, we have redistribute. This allows content to be shared with anyone in its original or altered format. It's the ability to share copies of the original content, your revisions, or remixes with others in your discipline. By doing so, you allow others access to your information or knowledge through the content that you have created. So those are the 5 R's of creation or using of OER. So to recap what we've gone over so far, OER are open resources or content that have open copyright licenses that allow users and creators the freedom to retain, reuse, revise, remix, or redistribute their created or adapted content. But why is all this sharing important, and how does it impact student learning? To answer that, we'll need to examine one major OER, and that's the open textbook. Now, it is safe to say that we personally are or know someone who is struggling with student loan debt. The cost of higher education is expensive, and that doesn't seem to be changing in the near future. While many students can prepare for the finances needed to pay for their tuition and room and board, they don't always budget for the cost of textbooks. There are many research studies and systematic reviews discussing this topic, but one study from the Florida Virtual Campus, which is comprised of 12 universities and 28 colleges in Florida, found that there is a strong negative correlation between the increasing costs of traditional or commercial textbooks with student success. What they found is not unusual. In fact, we here at Western Michigan University have found similar correlations when looking at drop, withdrawal, fail, or incomplete rates. Textbook costs may not have been a main factor for the lack of student success, but it is a factor when you see that 67% of students do not purchase textbooks required for their courses. And if you look at it, many students change the way that they take classes or change their course load based on these additional textbook costs. So they may be going from full-time status to part-time status because of the lack of knowledge of budgeting for these textbooks or the cost of the textbook itself. Okay, I'm sorry. Textbooks are often unexpected and unbudgeted, and I've said that before. One thing that I wanted to point out is this 2016 report produced by the Student Public Interest Research Group found that 30% of students use their financial aid to pay for textbooks. Of those that use financial aid, the average amount per semester spent on textbooks was $300. So, of course, the last bullet point, nearly 5.2 million U.S. undergraduate students spent a total of $1.5 billion of financial aid money on textbooks every semester, or $3 billion per year. Because some of you may be becoming future faculty, it is important to remember the challenges facing college students today. According to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, they found that between 2002 and 2012, the price of traditional commercial textbooks in the United States rose 82%. They also noted that textbook prices rose 1,041%. That's 1,041% from 1997 to 2015. And I'm sure the cost has gone up within the last 5 years as well. So I'm sure that number is probably a little bit larger. While students don't have the agency to change the exponential cost of their textbooks, you, as future faculty, you do have the ability to help, and that is by incorporating open educational resources into your teaching. So how do students benefit? So we looked at some of the cost savings that OER can provide, and that OERs are free and they have open licenses. So the ability to share and the ability to redistribute, yeah, is available. But there's other cost savings and other benefits as well. One, of course, is the cost effectiveness. Um, in 11 separate studies published in peer-reviewed journals, which included 48,000 college and university students, it found that 93% of students whose faculty assigned an open education resource, whether a textbook or some content material, they replaced it. They used that in place of a traditional commercial textbook or course material. They found that the students did the same in the class, if not better, than those who took a course that had traditionally or commercial textbooks or curriculum material. So the next is free access. And I've mentioned that a little bit before. All OER are free, and they're free to access for you as a user and as an educator. With the use of open copyright licensing and the 5R permissions, OER are free content that can be used and shared with your students. The other benefit is that it promotes creativity and flexibility. So this is true for faculty who use or adapt or create their own open educational resource, as well as for students. According to Lumen Learning, and I'll show you their information in a little bit here, OER give faculty the legal permissions necessary to personalize teaching and learning materials for their students, or have students personalize these OER for themselves or their peers. Opening the door, by doing this, this opens the door to a wide array of teaching and learning activities that are simply not possible with commercial curriculum materials. So next is the ease of use, or they're easy to use. So they're designed to be easy to use for both faculty and for the students. There can be flexibility in their adaptation and working and using them in other course content. So they're kind of a plug and play, if you want to think about it that way, their use. Like I've mentioned before, their OERs are customizable. It's part of the 5R permissions of OER that they be customizable to fit in a syllabus, in an assignment, in a lab experiment, in a course content, in a study session, in a video, or any other way that makes sense for you and your curriculum. That is one of the major benefits, not just the cost effectiveness, but the customization of these. Now, OER, another benefit is that they're current and they are up to date. Let's see, because they have to be created and updated on a regular basis. They are very current and up to date. So that's a part of the licensing as well. Let's see, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. So they're constantly updated and they're current within the growing research of any field. So this currency is what separates OER from other free resources and traditional commercial textbooks. Free resources may remain stagnant and lose value over time. And while traditional and commercial textbooks do go through revisions, by the time they're published, new information may be available. So OERs, because of their openness, they allow for more flexibility, like I had mentioned, and they allow for more adaptability, which makes them more current and up to date. And lastly, they're easily accessible. So they can be used in different various platforms. You can link them into your course syllabi or add them to your course management system, or they can be downloadable for print if someone doesn't have access to computers or if you have a student who doesn't have access or has poor access, they can always download them for print. Not to mention, there are numerous places you can go to find OER to use. And that leads me to the next few slides. I'm going to show you a small handful of organizations who provide OER content for you to use. So the first place where to go is the OER Commons. The OER Commons offers a comprehensive infrastructure for curriculum experts. This is according to their website, which is oercommons.org. So it offers a comprehensive infrastructure for curriculum experts and instructors at all levels to identify high-quality OER and collaborate around the evaluation, and use to address the needs of teachers and learning. Now, the OER Commons has multiple grade levels, so it does have high school content as well as higher ed and undergraduate and graduate level content. They have a pretty easy search engine to go through. I mentioned Lumen Learning earlier. They do a lot with open educational resources. What I wanted to point out with Lumen Learning is that they have two aspects of connecting to OER. They have two main focuses. One is connecting to OER, and one is building community around OER. So the first is called the Lumen Courseware. That provides affordable course materials designed to strengthen learning and using OER. Their other resource that Lumen provides is called Lumen Circles Professional Development Programs. So Lumen offers professional development experiences that use virtual communities of practice to connect you to peers and help hone the expertise to support student-centered teaching and learning. So Lumen's been around for a while, and it's a great resource to kind of go, even if you just want to connect with those in your community. Next one I want to mention is Merlot. Merlot began in 1997 in California and has developed into a current system that, according to their website, it provides access to curated online learning and support and content creation tools led by an international community of educators, learners, and researchers. So Merlot is a good place to go to look for all kinds of content. They don't just have, I think Merlot too is also K through 12 in higher ed, but their website's pretty easy to navigate through. So I have the link to their website here. The next one that I want to highlight is called OpenStax. Now, OpenStax is a source for open textbooks for high enrollment courses. So these are usually undergraduate courses with high enrollments. So, it's your psychology or intro to chem and those kind of things. They also, though, what they don't highlight, but they do also provide ancillary materials for instructors and students. So they do have access to tests and like lab prep and things along those lines. So OpenStax is mostly noted for its open textbooks, but it does have these ancillary materials available for you to use. So two Michigan places I want to point out. One is Open Michigan, which was developed by the University of Michigan. But it not only provides open educational resources, but it does provide open data and open publications. So, but focusing on their OER, they provide access to course materials, videos, lectures, student work as well, which is very interesting, and more. So it's a good site to look at and see what's available. And then the last one is Michigan Colleges Online. Now, the Michigan Colleges Online is created by OER Commons as what they call a hub for OER content. It's mainly aimed at Michigan's community colleges. And while as a graduate student, this site may seem to have little value, I want to note that our state's community colleges have really taken the lead in developing, adapting, and using OER in their course design. They have multiple grants. That's how they were able to get this hub for OER Commons. They are really doing a lot of great work when it comes to OER adaptation, OER creation, and use. So again, in the Michigan Colleges online, the hub through OER Commons, and the link is here for you to look at. They too offer resources for those higher enrollment undergraduate courses. But keep in mind that I mentioned OER Commons. They do have resources that you can use that are for higher levels of education. But I did want to point out the Michigan College Online. So the sites that I've shared are only a few examples of where to find open educational resources. There are so many examples out there that I wouldn't be able to talk about them all in one setting. So I'm going to segue into where you can go to find help for these, because it's easy to get down a rabbit hole when looking for open educational resources to use in your own research or in your own teaching. So one thing I wanted to point out before I get to this slide, I did want to say that when thinking about OER or using that in any way, of course, I want to advise you to talk to your department faculty and your faculty advisors. They may assist you with how to incorporate OER into your teaching or research. They're a good resource for you to start with. But I did what I want to mention, which is this link here, is our Western Michigan University subject librarians. That would be your second resource to go to use, is your librarians. Again, I provided you a link to locate your librarian. By connecting with your subject librarian, they can help guide you to OER that maybe you're not finding, or they know about that aren't readily known, like the examples that I showed you are the most popular. They can help you use all that into your teaching or research. I would say that the best way to contact your librarian right now, since we're kind of in a COVID situation, would be via email. I think after you make the initial contact and let them know what you're looking for, then they'll be able to help hone you into your OER needs and specifications. And they might set up an appointment with you. Now, who else can help is the Western Michigan University OER Task Force. I mentioned them earlier. Once you've narrowed down your research, the OER to the OER you wish to use, the task force itself can provide guidance for you and your faculty advisors. Really, the task force, we are comprised of faculty and faculty librarians and teaching faculty and other staff. And we offer further professional development via workshops. But we also, to faculty, not so much to graduate students, we offer grants every fall, and to help faculty start incorporating OER into their curriculum. So that could just be a discussion that you have with a faculty member to let them know that these grant monies are available through the library. And then lastly, of course, who can help? I can help. So I am the OER coordinator here at Western Michigan University Libraries. I've added a tab to my email address there. That's the best way to get a hold of me right now, because I'm working virtually. I do have virtual office hours every Thursday from 9 to noon. So if you wish, you can just send me an email on what you're looking for, and maybe I will send you a link, and we can maybe have further discussions about what it is you're trying to do and how I can help you in your research. So that's my information. Again, my office hours are Thursdays from 9 to noon, and I will do them virtually through Web Connect? I can't remember. But anyway, it'll be a virtual office hour, or we can just communicate via email, or I can give you a call. But best way to reach me right now is via email because of the COVID. Okay, so that really wraps up my presentation. I hope that you were able to learn something about the basics of OER. Thank you for attending, and have a great day.